Happy Labor Day to everybody out there. Hopefully you're off. If you're not off, you're working, but you're going to get through the day. It's going to be good. Welcome to Randall's weather page. Have a lot to get into today, so I want to run through this and make sure that you stay informed. First off, Paulette just formed out in the Atlantic, so we can mark Paulette off. Next up would be Rene, Sally, Teddy, and Vicky. Rene, Sally, Teddy, and Vicky. Let's look at the MJO. If you know me, you know I love the MJO. Once again, your oranges, those are sinking air. Doesn't mean that tropical systems can't develop. It just means that the atmosphere is not as ripe as it could possibly be. That goes through about the mid of September. Your green is rising air that helps development of storms, helps development of systems. Notice your green starts filtering in the end of September. Excuse me there. And then through mid-October, you will have rising air. So, yes, we should be able to get into the Greek alphabet when it comes to names, because starting late September into mid-October, the atmosphere, the MJO positive, will be over the Atlantic, and we will have a ripe atmosphere, and we'll probably have a lot of development during that time. Let's go look at sea surface temperature anomalies. This is where the sea is warmer than it normally is. Notice Gulf, warmer. Caribbean, warmer. Atlantic, especially off the East Coast, warmer. Main development region, a little bit warm, a little bit cool, but mainly up here in the main development region, it is warmer. But notice all this warm air, all this warm sea here. What is a hurricane's basic primary function? A hurricane's basic primary function is to cool the seas off. That is the basic function of a hurricane. It's nature's way of cooling the seas off. Well, when you see a whole bunch of above normal sea surface temperatures, guess what? That's right. Nature's going to do its job. This is the sea surface temperature anomaly for the last 7 days, and what the change is. Notice the main development region is warming up. Notice where Laura went in is now warming back up. Caribbean warming back up. Still warming up in the western Atlantic. Okay? So that's the last 7 days. You can tell where the warming's happening. All right, let's go to the 5-day graphical tropical outlook. Here is this disturbance. The National Hurricane Center gives it 30% chance of developing within the next 5 days. Not seeing much out of this, but definitely something to keep our eye on. Paulette, Tropical Storm Paulette, has formed. Tropical Depression number 18, which will probably become Rene by the end of the day. And then this would be another wave that's coming off Africa, and eventually that would be Sally. So, starting to run through the names again. Let's look at total precipitable water. Paulette. What will be Rene, which is Tropical Depression number 18. Notice the spin back here already. The waves keep coming. All right. Little bit of a twist right here in the Caribbean to keep your eye on. This is the 30% chance that the National Hurricane Center is taking a look at. So that's your spins. Notice nothing in the Gulf. The Gulf is quiet. Just warming up again. That's all it's doing. All right, let's go look at Paulette. Paulette, as of 11 o'clock, 40-mile-per-hour sustained winds moving west-northwest at a whopping 3 miles per hour. Now, usually with tropical systems, if they're moving and they're moving at a slow pace, like 3 miles per hour, usually that just means that they are primed for intensification. I'm going to show you why in the near term, why the National Hurricane Center only has this as a tropical storm and really doesn't develop it. I'll show you why. Here's the ensembles. Most of the ensembles take Paulette west, northwest, and then a turn, and then take it out to sea. Your hurricane plus global models definitely a westward trend, and then slowly moving, slowly having a turn about 96 to 120 hours with a few outliers here, but mainly 96 to 120 hours when you start seeing the turn. This is the GFS and its ensembles. Notice 96 to 120 hours, you see the turn. Notice that's the main GFS track, but look at all of this that's out to the west of it. Look at all these members that are out to the west of it. So definitely going to have to keep an eye on that. Let's look at the new GFS, the GFS Para. Notice 96, 120 hours, you started gradual turn, but notice with the Para, you still have, just like the GFS, the new GFS has a lot of members that are still further westward than what the control has. All right, let's look at, this is the Paulette intensification model. Notice most of them keep it as a tropical storm. Let me show you why. This is shear. This is upper level shear. This is where Paulette is right now. Notice the green means there's not much shear. Your yellow is your neutral, and then your red is unfavorable. And we're looking at knots of wind here. So 25 knots, 30 knots, 40 knots, 50 knots, 60 knots. Notice where Paulette is going to be traveling into. High vertical shear, so unfavorable for development. So that is why the National Hurricane Center does not have this developing into a hurricane in the short term. Hey, let's go look at Tropical Depression number 18, which by the end of the day will be Rene. As of current conditions, 35 mile per hour winds moving west-northwest faster at 10 miles per hour than what Paulette is. Notice that the National Hurricane Center has this becoming a hurricane by 11 a.m. on Thursday and continuing to be a hurricane. Okay. Let's look at the ensemble models. All the ensemble models move this to the northwest with a gradual turn and then turn it into a fish storm. Let's look at global plus hurricane models. Notice there's a turn to the north and then the east with your H-Wharf, your TV, CN and CX, your official, your HMI. So your hurricane models through 120 hours still keep it more of a northwesterly pattern, while other models is kind of split. But we still expect this to be a fish storm. Let's look at the GFS. The GFS pretty tightly combined here with the GFS, with the turn starting at 72 hours, the major turn starting at 72 hours. Let's go look at the new GFS, the GFS Para. Pretty tight ensemble models until you get to about the 120 hour. But there is that, all models are starting to show that turn at about the 72 to 96 hour. Here's your intensity model guidance. Notice your H-Wharf, your hurricane model takes it up, your official model takes it up, your LGM, your TVCN, your D-ships, all have this going up towards a Cat 1. And that's what the National Hurricane Center is seeing. All right, let's get into the models. Let's look at the latest run from the European. Notice Paulette, Rene, Sally. Anytime that you have the wave train, and the wave train is showing a system that's inside Bermuda, I'll always keep an eye out on the East Coast in Florida, because so much can change. So much can change. So having Paulette move inside Bermuda, Rene back here moving up as a fish storm, Sally staying a little further south but getting pulled north. The main thing to watch here, high pressure system. High pressure system, and in between the high pressure systems, the weakness. Will the weakness carry these storms north, or will the weakness not be there as much and the storm still can take more of a south and west view? Let's look at the last 4 runs of the European at 120 hours out, which would be based on this upcoming Saturday. Notice the trend. The high pressure is more off to the east, but you notice further west at 120 hours, a little bit further north and a little bit further west on Paulette. Let's go down here. Rene, pretty much in the same place, but more intense. Sally, a little bit further south and east. So that is what your model runs are seeing. It's what your last 4 model tendencies are for your European. So Paulette, a little further west and a little further north. Rene, a little further south and more intense. And then Sally, a little further to the, actually a little bit further to the west and not as intense. Okay. Let's go to the gym. All right, the gym. This is a disturbance that the National Weather Service is seeing. Notice it dissipates. There was one here in the Gulf. Kind of dissipates. Here's Paulette, taking it further north. Doesn't really develop Rene. This would be Sally. That would be a low pressure system at the end of a front that would become tropical and then move up. And then possibly Teddy starting to spin back here. Let's look at the last 4 model tendency runs for the gym, once again based off 120 hours, which this would be Saturday. Notice on the gym, let's start it out where that starts out. So this is where Paulette starts out. Notice the tendency for the gym for 120 hours is further south and west. Okay, further south and west for Paulette. Okay, interesting. Okay, let's go to the GFS. Let's go for the main cat daddy, the American model. Let's let it run through. Paulette, Rene, possibly Sally. Okay. Notice bringing it close to Bermuda. Paulette close to Bermuda. Teddy. Vicky. Yeah. So the American model is showing all types of activity. So Paulette comes close to Bermuda. Rene, fish storm. Teddy would be a fish storm. And then you'd have a low that is part of a front that develops and becomes tropical, then moves up to the northeast with Vicky, possibly down here. Notice the southern route that Vicky takes, bringing it closer into the Caribbean, and pretty decent, strong hurricane signal there. But once again, that far out, we're just looking at general positions, okay? With Paulette still close to Bermuda, East Coast Florida, you have to continue to watch out. Let's look at the last 4 model runs, the tendencies, okay? The tendency, let me move this over here. That's the start of Paulette. Notice the tendency with the GFS is to move it a little further north and east, okay? Further north and east on the GFS. Let's look at Rene. Rene is further north and east. Let's look at Sally. Get a bearing on where Sally is. Pretty much brings Sally back into the same spot, okay? Let's look at this high pressure. Notice how the last run, this high pressure, this high pressure now switched from being off the coast of England to specifically over England, which would move everything to the north and to the east. So that's why the GFS last run, which was noon today, still is showing that this moves further, each system moves further north and east because this high pressure moves north and east. Okay? So that's a lot that we went into today. But the main highlights is you have Paulette, you're fixing to have Rene. So we're fixing to have 2 systems that we're going to be watching. The general trend in the models is pretty much south and east, except for the GFS. The GFS is kind of north and east because of that high pressure moving over England. We'll see if that redirects on the next model run. Thank you for being a part of this page. Thank you for being a subscriber. If you're not a subscriber, make sure to go down, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell, make sure you're notified Make sure to share this with your friends, your family, your co-workers. Make sure they're a part of this so they can get the good, the right information, not hype, but what actually is going on. Thank you very much. I will see you the next time.